This is Overtime with Matty.
Welcome to our brand new vodcast here on Overtime with Matty, part of our Pacific Grandstand show here on 531 PI. I'm your host, Willie Poaching, and our other host here is Matt Manukoa. As always, we've chopped it up about NRL and Super Rugby. Here on the vodcast, we'll be diving deep into some of the big issues to do with sport this week. We have a special guest in the house, Matty. I'll let you introduce our special friend here today.
Yeah, morning everyone. We've got a special guest today, Cedric Tausinga. He is also known as Let's Talk Sport on TikTok. Cedric has a huge following and he covers sports across TikTok. He's got a bunch of videos. He's got almost 15,000 followers as well. And he's one of our young Pacifica aspiring journalists as well as aspiring sports voices who we want to platform on our show Overtime with Matty. So we'll just hand it over to you, Cedric, to give us a bit of introduction about yourself and how you got into what you currently do.
Hey guys, just want to say I appreciate you guys for getting me on. My name's Cedric Tausinga. I'm 23 years old. Basically how I got started, I think just like every young boy, I wanted to be an All Black, wanted to be a Kiwi, and then those dreams got shut down quite quickly, just the injuries, and then I always knew I still wanted to be involved with sports. And then at the end of 2021, I was just like, I talk a lot of smack like with my boys about sports. Let's take it to TikTok and see what everyone thinks. And I think the first video I made, it got like 800 views, and I was like, I'm gonna make it. Just cracking out with the boys, and then I started making more and more, and then I started seeing people were getting more interested, and then I was like, I think I could continue to do it. So I started making it over time. And then started getting a bit of recognition. Did a lot around the high school game because I know there's not a lot of not a big voice for that. And then I guess people interested of that. And then just this year, I made that decision to go to uni for it. Nice. And so that's the goal, to become a sports journalist. So
Tell us a little bit about your sports journey and how that started.
My old man, he wanted us to do everything, so we played every sport. Played cricket, played tennis. Nice. And seeing these brown boys play cricket, you're kind of like, what's going on there? I played a bit of rugby growing up. I played a lot with my brothers. They're both really talented. Played throughout primary, intermediate. Even played table tennis. I just played every sport. And then coming to high school, I didn't play rugby until my last year of school. So that's when I played first 15. And I thought I was alright, not the best, but I understood that I had a better rugby brain than a lot of the boys. So I thought maybe I could use this. And then out of school, a pre-season game, I got hurt, and then I was like, no, it's alright. Come back next year, and then I got hurt again. I was like, yep, that's enough for me. I'll call it good from there. And just decided to start talking about sports instead. So,
Through participating and playing a lot of sports, did you watch a lot of sport?
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I was that one kid that so they'll bring up a rugby player, and I'll be like, I know what school they went to, I know how many tries he scored. I was like that kid that just knew it all.
The encyclopedia.
You're pretty much it. And I even have friends that get annoyed at me, like, how do you know all these things? And I was like, it's just an interest of mine. But just my dad just watched so much sports, and I was just always there beside him, just watching with him too. But I never played much, but I always watched a lot of sports.
I suppose because you're passionate about it and you love what you're watching, you retain that. If it's something you're not really bothered about, you forget about it. People are probably saying to you, how come you remember all that stuff? Because you're deeply interested in it. I can tell that from the start. Do you have a preference of sport?
It's definitely rugby, and then I'd probably say basketball. I remember I thought I was going to the NBA in year 9, but they're not going to take a 5'11" chubby Samoan kid to the NBA. So I was like, never mind. But definitely rugby and basketball. So those are the two main sports.
That's a story with all of our Pacific people, but in general, they get injured and then they have to resort into doing something else, bro. So how important is it for you, I guess, to come into this sort of space to give to highlight sports, something that's so crucial in our Pacific communities, separate from being a player?
I think it's important because I know there's not many people that look like me that are in this space. And I think when I started TikTok, I was like, okay, there is a need for it. And then a big thing was when Sky Sport took down all the high school coverage. I think a lot of people kind of relied on me to put that out, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I can do it. So now every week I'll get DMs. Why aren't you talking about this? Why you need to talk about this? I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's coming. So yeah, I guess that's why.
That's me, bro. And what school did you go to, bro? And how are they going so far in the rugby world?
So I went to Edgewater College.
Yeah, Edgewater.
Out in Pukuranga. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no first 15 team there.
Oh man, sorry guys.
Yeah, so people always ask me, because I support De La Salle in the 1A comp. They asked me, do you go to De La Salle? And I was like, oh, nah. I went to Edgewater. And they're like, Edgewater? I was like, oh, they just don't have a team, so I had to support someone else. So that's what happened, yeah.
Oh, me, bro. Yeah, cool.
Championing the people of tomorrow, the rugby players of tomorrow. Where do you see the state of first 15 rugby at the moment?
My biggest thing is that we need, like, more media coverage, eh? I think when they took it down, a lot of it was because there was too much pressure on the boys, and I know the principals decided that. But I know, like, hearing a lot of the boys, everyone's excited to play on TV. Like, under the bright lights, that's when the boys shine the brightest. So when that got taken down, I was like, oh, there's not much coverage. A lot of people don't know who's coming through. But when it was on, the likes of Caleb Clark, Itane Nanai, like Talofa Funaki, all these Super Rugby boys we saw come through, it didn't make it to the big stage. Right now, there's none of that. And I'm a bit like, there was kind of no need for it, and I thought it would have been better for the players to decide on it, to have a vote, rather than the principals, because the boys are out there on the field. So
it's probably one of those, they probably think the kids are too young.
Yeah.
What do they know? And the older adults are probably making decisions that, as you're saying, aren't in the best interest, or aren't the thoughts really of the participants, i.e. the players today.
It's sort of like how it is in the professional realm. You know, the clubs and the management are going to make decisions on behalf of the club or on behalf of the player that some players won't agree with. And I guess in this case, for our schoolboys who are playing in New Zealand, they get that same essence of that. You know, when taking away something as big as first 15 rugby. I remember seeing it back in the day. Simi Latu, I don't know if you remember his step, bro. He did a nice fat step that went viral on Facebook, and it's like folklore, you know, for our young Pasifika, but also our young people that are watching those types of sports. So it just helps develop the young athletes that often when we strip the opportunities like those for them to see the bright lights, like you said, it sort of takes away from their, in some cases, it can take away from their experiences. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's like, because, yeah, like you said, the Simulatu step, that's something everyone was talking about for ages, and then you have the big fixtures like Kings vs Auckland Grammar. Like, I know everyone can't attend that game, so it's cool if it's like it's on TV. Like, yeah, those things matter to a lot of the boys, and it's a big part of them going through to that professional environment once they leave school. So when that got taken out, I was just frankly quite annoyed. So.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job continuing to platform our, you know, first 15 rugby stars, because there's so many of our Pacific boys who, you know, do some great things. I think I remember seeing Tangaroa College, they had a documentary a couple of years ago that really platformed their first 15 game, and just that exposure for our young boys who are involved in sport, who, you know, whose lives sort of revolve around sport is special. Yeah,
and I think because, like, guys that go professional out of high school, it's a small percentage, right? So for that time that they do play first 15, if they get that exposure, if they can, like, do interviews and have people watching them, it's a lot of fun, and it's some of the best rugby they play throughout their career until they leave. So yeah, when it was taken out, it was just, I guess it is what it is.
And for those that don't make it, you're saying there's a high percentage, and there is a high number that don't. Are we getting the balance right between the academic side and the rugby side, especially in some of these big rugby schools? Is our focus in the right place? Are we trying to get that 50-50 split almost? Because I remember being at school, our first 15 were the heroes. They pretty much got away with everything. They went
top of the food chain,
and not every one of them made it. In fact, the only one really that made the All Blacks from my years at school was a guy younger than me, Andrew Blowers. Wow. And not many others made it, but they were all afforded some luxuries because they were in the first 15. Are we getting that balance right a bit better?
I wouldn't know. I'd like to assume so. I know at these big schools, they're really big on if your grades aren't good, you're not going to play. But with the other schools, I guess Desau 1 schools like Tangaroa College and maybe De La Salle, like those schools. I don't know what they do there, but I know at the big schools they put a big emphasis on if you're not passing, you're not going to play. So, yeah, I think they're getting the balance right.
We're getting back to the sporting side. What's been your favourite moment that you filmed?
That I filmed?
Yeah, that you've been able to put on social media, either a play or an interview with a player. What moment stands out to you that you've been able to put out into social media?
I think... so there was this kid from De La Salle named Frank Vainuku. So I was really big on him, and a lot of people didn't see it. And I put out the video of him. He was playing sevens for NZ. He did like a massive step and then broke the line,
Man.
and he scored. And then from like that video onwards, a lot of people started talking about him. The next year he made NZ schools, and then he made under 20s. NZ he's going over to I think maybe in South Africa or somewhere for the under 20 championships this year. And I was just like, I told you guys. Yeah.
Man, you're like an agent too, eh?
Yes, man.
You should be charging some people a bit of a fee.
So yeah, probably that video, I think it gained over maybe like 300,000 views or something
Wow.
like that. And yeah, I guess that was pretty cool to see. So.
And going down the journalistic route and studying about it now, is this something you're going to take up?
Yeah,
Good.
definitely. I think the big goal would to be doing something like this, talking sports for a living. I'm really big on having like a sports debating show. Something similar to because I watch a lot of American sports. If you guys know
Undisputed.
First Take, Stephen A.
Yeah.
Smith. It's good. Yeah, I'm
That
really.
Penaway.
And I'm just thinking like, if we had something here, like I think we could draw a lot of attention to it and stuff. So, I'm really big on maybe trying to create something like that in the future. Yeah.
No, awesome. Well, you're going to stick with us through our chat. So, State of Origin's been played.
Oh,
Obviously, a
what
lot
a
of
game.
hype leading up into Game 1.
Yeah.
A lot of hype here in New Zealand as well. Whilst it's an Australian game, we've had some banter around the office. We went around the streets and got some picks from the people. We had a couple of people who were trying to pick New South Wales 36-0.
Crazy work.
Yeah, they're having a sad day since the game. But your thoughts on the game, on how dominant Queensland were?
I think everyone's talking about the biggest turning point was at the 8th minute when Suoli'i got sent off. Joseph Suoli'i got sent off for that head-high shot on Reece Walsh. Everyone's thought was that didn't deserve a send-off. It was more of a sin bin. But when you see it, it was Suoli'i's responsibility to duck. And it was just straight head contact. And Reece Walsh was gone for a while. The play continued after. And when he got sent off, I think that was definitely the turning point. And then Daly Cherry Evans, he was just calm, collected, and knew like, okay, there's a player off, but we need to stay calm and make sure to like pick our spots right. And then they just capitalized off of it. And not gonna lie, it was a boring game, mate. Like after that moment, I was just, being a Queensland fan, I was like, oh yeah, it's a wrap. See,
Bro, after that, when he got sent off, it sucked all the energy out of the ANZ Stadium. All the hype that went into that game, all the, the news, media, the coverage, people, both New South Wales and Queensland were posting so much before the game. As soon as Suoli'i got sent off, oh man, it got boring. I looked at my brother and my sister, my two brothers and my sister-in-law that I was watching the game with, and I was like, bro, this is boring. I know we're going to win now. So 38 points to 10. I thought that was a fitting score for the type of squad that Billy Slater named. I thought that Selwyn Cobbo, the decision to put him on the bench was a crucial decision because they could slot Hamiso Tabuai-Whito, who had a great game, by the way, hat trick. Shout out to you also. He had a great game too, and Selwyn Cobbo was able to fill in that back row. So yeah, Willie, thoughts on the game?
I thought Queensland were dominant anyway. They scored early, and they just took their opportunity, run the last play. Cherry Evans was on fire to start the game and was throughout. Hamiso makes a break down the left-hand side. Probably should have just drawn and passed and play inside the dead, and there's 12-0. He tries to go around him. Probably has thoughts of when he scored the try last year. To go around the Tedesco, tried to do it again, but didn't come off. So at that moment in time, with 13-13, it should have been 12-0 to Queensland. And I think they take a real mental edge and a mental advantage over New South Wales at that point. The sending off changed the game, and New South Wales, as spirited as they were after half-time, gave themselves a chance. and I just thought Queensland were dominant anyway. I'm a little bit different. It was 13 on 12, and with the quality of players out on the field, the advantage to Queensland numerically was always going to come through. But it's never over in Origin. I've seen too many games where the underdog or the team that's behind come back. One of the greatest ones for me was Queensland are down with 30 seconds to go, and Mark Coyne scores a try, that great try in 1994, where they go from one side of the field to the other, and they claw back the win. So I know those things can happen. I know those things are possible. And so at half-time, especially when Lomax scored, all the running of players with New South Wales, whether they've got 12 or 10, they had all the momentum. And just thankful that Queensland got back into the grind of it. And because they got back into the grind and got some field position, they started to wear them down and started to fatigue New South Wales, which is ultimately where they took advantage of the game. But yeah, Origin is Origin. It's a crazy game. It's a fantastic event. It's a fantastic occasion. The whole build-up. It's a machine now. It's a machine of an operation. So yeah, big win for Queensland in Sydney.
Yeah, in Sydney as well. Yeah.
Yourself, Queensland fan?
Yeah, Queensland fan.
Yeah, another one to add to.
I'll take it back to the Suoliti moment. Justified red card or not?
In my opinion, I think that it was justified. It was an unfortunate way to end, but in the heat of the game, Ashley Klein was quick to pull out and send him off straight away. And I thought that as soon as I saw head contact and I saw Reece Walsh slip into the shoulder of Suoliti, he's tall, man. He's quite tall. He's a tall figure coming up against Reece Walsh, who's quite short. And when he comes into defense, usually, just like Tedesco does, they sort of fall into the defender, and usually that causes some head highs or some, it's quite awkward to try and tackle short players because you've got to bend down and try and get in the right position. We see this in rugby union, where a lot of the times it happens for other shorter players that get that head, that shoulder to the head. But yeah, it was unfortunate just to see him go off. It's his first game. He's that's the quickest time in Origin history for a player to get sent off. He was in his debut game. He's only a young bloke, and for him to go off, I saw a photo during the game that Nate Miles was giving him an earful walking off. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was quite strange. But for one of our young Pacifica boys, we've got to get around him and got to back him, bro. What do you reckon about the red card?
Nah, that was a send off for sure. He had every opportunity to adjust his height. And it just seemed like that's what he was gunning for. Like, he didn't care if it was a clean tackle. And I saw people saying, like, oh, it's a smart move because he's going to Australian rugby next year.
Yeah.
So I think this is his last game. I think Maguire going into it won't select them. I wonder how many weeks off he'll get. But yeah, that was just a bad tackle, let's say.
I think he got 3 or 4 weeks. 4 or 5 week ban for that. So crazy to see him, how quickly an opportunity can come. We talked about it before, Willie, about the energy that State of Origin brings to a young player and a young folk that he's on his debut and he's excited to come out and perform. I assume that he'll have lots of his family there in New South Wales to come and support him. So, for you, Willie, coming into sold out arenas like that or just a high intensity game, how would you advise a player to sort of keep their cool and make sure that they make right decisions on the field?
Yeah, well, that's, from my experience, starts early in the week. You try and focus on not playing the game too early, which can happen.
Yeah.
And you find if you're doing that throughout the week and you're focusing on the end, and you're focusing on the game, and you're focusing I would say if it's a final, you're focusing on winning and picking up the trophy, and you're seeing those visions, it can be draining. It can be draining on you emotionally. And I know these guys focus heavily, and they have mental skills coaches in camp to help them focus and be on point with all the right things mentally and emotionally to manage things. Interesting last night, seeing both teams come out, and pretty much both teams did this. They came out and looked quite relaxed.
Yeah.
There were a lot of players waving to their families, which I remember 2004 playing for Leeds in the grand final, and we came out, both teams, and just as the team split off, I remember going to the bench, walking up, and I started off the bench waving to my wife and my kids. And my my coach was standing behind me. I didn't know he was there. He just whispered in my ear, "You better be on today." and automatically I just switched back in. I thought, I wasn't not focused. But I was just trying to have a moment to relax and, just not get overstressed about what was to come. And it was interesting to see some of that last night, how relaxed some of the players were in that cauldron, and you understand how fierce and physical the game is. That first carry from Lindsay Collins, just 4 defenders just wanted to, that's, if you're Lindsay Collins and you know that's coming from the kickoff, I'm not sure if I'm still waving at my family. I was like, oh man, I've got to get ready for this. But the players were pretty focused and pretty relaxed going into it, but they all delivered. Definitely. Out on the field, and I felt sorry for Joseph, and probably the argument for that one is normally in State of Origin you get away with things, and that's what people are trying to say, and the fact that they went down to 12 men so early in the game, it ruined the spectacle, it ruined the fan experience, but the fact of the matter is he made contact with the head. He did, cleanly, and he was in a bad way. So I don't think Ashley Kine had any other decision but to send him off. I think that was pretty much self-explanatory. It was interesting too, I don't know if this came into his calculations, but Ashley Kine let the play go on 3 or 4 plays. And
they were down the other side of the field.
So I don't know if during that time he's allowing Reece Walsh to either get to his feet or recover, or if he stays down, this is making my decision. I don't know if that influences the referee's decision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because after 4 plays, if he looks back and Reece Walsh is still in a bad way,
he's down.
No,
send him off.
Because he used to be an old referee, and some old referees used to do this. If something happened and the player who got injured went off, that was almost, all right, you're going off too. And I'm not saying that was Ashley Kine's MO yesterday, but I'm sure that swayed some of his decision, seeing how bad Reece Walsh was. Because you got him flush, whether we're slipping or not. And we've gone away from accidental. It was clean. We've got to try and show some duty of care to players. But what were your thoughts on some of the tactics after that for New South Wales? They tried to put Liam Martin into centre to start with. Haumole came on later on, but then they settled with Crichton on that side. And it just looked like it took them too long to come to that decision. They had no backup plan for some of that, whereas Billy Slater said they accounted for everything, every scenario. Having Cobo on the bench was a calculated decision, which paid off for them.
Yeah, unreal. I thought that it was... I thought Haumole Aolokoatu, huge unit, bro. He had a grand opportunity in front of him, but the halves did not use him in the way that they should have. They didn't give him any good ball for him to run off. He's a strong runner. He carries 3 or 4 defenders each time, and he was getting the ball too late. The defensive line was already there by the time he had the ball. So I thought that it was strange just to see him. He was on the field, but he wasn't. They weren't doing much with him for the New South Wales Blues. And saying that, I think that. How they moved Hines out to the edges to defend too. So I thought that was a decision, pretty weird decision. You could see Stephen Crichton come from the left side to the right side, and he was playing and making some solid defensive efforts. So it was it was interesting in that. Jake Trebojevic didn't come back on for a while for the rest of the game. He's the captain, bro. Like, why aren't you putting him back on? And so he came on late into the second half, and I thought that was quite strange for the New South Wales Blues side to do. What do you reckon, bro?
I thought it was interesting because they brought him on like with 4 minutes left, and then I was like, oh, okay, the captain is coming on with 4 minutes. Like, what was the point in doing that? And then I also thought, like you said, Haumole, he wasn't given any chances to dominate how he does at Manly, but. Yeah, that came down to Nico Hines and Jerome Luai. If you saw the 2 tries that they scored, it was Luai trying to make something out of nothing, and then that try Teddy scored was like off a 5th tackle, and the try Lomax scored in the corner. It was Luai trying to do something, got it over to Hines for that chip. They just seemed really flustered, and Hines, he was just struggling defending. His kicking game wasn't the best, and I think Cherry Evans and Dearden just showed them up.
How good was Spencer Leniu?
Oh, barnstormer, man.
How good was his impact? Looked like he hurt his knee there. There was a moment when he first come on, but I thought he was a real turning point for New South Wales. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Oh, you talk about impact players, right? You talk about players coming off the bench, and man, he's played that role so well for the Roosters and for the Panthers when he played there. He played at Samoa as well. But when you need a player to put their hand up in those big moments, we saw Michael Maguire talk about big moments, that they need to win big moments in order to win the game, New South Wales. And I thought that he could have been, and he was a game breaker for the New South Wales go forward. Yeah, do you reckon?
He's born for those moments. For the biggest stage, to Samoa. Yesterday in his debut, he was just, as a Queensland fan, I was hoping like chop him, like hit him, like
do something to him.
Do something. He was like dragging 3 or 4 players, just getting over the advantage line every time he had the ball. And then, the times like he had a really good run, and then he came off. I was like, is he hurt, or does Maguire not want him on?
And he wasn't happy, was he?
Yeah, he wasn't happy because they could feel the momentum shifting, but they took him off, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Lemieux, for me, justified his selection. Some question marks over whether he'd played enough games for the Roosters after his suspension. Should he have been there? Was he going to be fit enough? I think he ticked that box. Last year's, everyone's saying Nico Hines played out of position, come off the bench, not a centre. They didn't use him right.
Yeah.
Plays in the halfback role this week against Queensland. Did he justify a spot, or is it Mitchell Moses coming back in?
I think Moses is coming back in, bro. I think that Hines had an opportunity last night, but there's no cohesion, bro. There was no go for. There's no direction from his side. Everything he was doing was quite predictable, and his kicking game just wasn't the difference. In those big games and those intense games, that kicking game, and those clinical kicks that the likes of Cameron Munster, Nathan Cleary, Mitchell Moses proved last year as well, that can really influence the way that a game flows. And I think that he had some moments, but I felt like the halves pairing between Luai and Hines was just a bit clunky, and it wasn't very cohesive in the way that New South Wales needed to be. If New South Wales can have a good spine, can have 2 really directive halves who know how to steer the ship, and especially in those big arenas, then I think that they would do well. But Hines was questionable. I think people probably call for Mitchell Moses. Do you reckon?
Everyone last night after that game was just saying, "Yep, bring Moses in." Bring Moses. But like you said, there was no structure. Like if you saw the attack with Cherry Evans and Darren running the show compared to them, it seemed like Hines was taking up a lot of the forward space to run. Like he was giving them no time. Every time he did pass, the defense were right there to set. And I think Queensland are pretty lucky to have guys like Ben Hunt, Darren, and Cherry Evans who all can cook, and to have Ben Hunt on at 9, who's essentially a halfback but is great at hooker too. I think we're really lucky. But that was something I was a bit worried about for New South, having that kicking game, being that Luai and Hines aren't the best kickers. Well, everyone knows Luai loves to run.
Yeah,
he's a running 5'8", and if there was a game to show that you can do all those things as great halves, it was last night, but they just couldn't quite execute it.
And it's been one of the areas I think that Queensland's been quite fortunate over New South Wales, is that they've had settled halves combinations for a long time. I'll go back to Jonathan Thurston and Cooper Cronk, and then Cooper Cronk goes out, and then Cherry Evans comes in, then Thurston retires, and Cherry Evans and Munster have been a great combination for a long time. You know, they've had settled halves, whereas New South Wales, they're always asking, is it Mitchell Pearce? Is it Adam Reynolds? Is it Dylan Walker? Or, who is it? Who is it going to be every year? Even this year, they didn't know who their halves combination was going to be. Granted that if he was fit, Nathan Cleary would be the one, and it's just finding the partner for him. But, they've got no stability.
Yeah, I think that's what Queensland have provided, bro. Their spine, even with Daly Cherry Evans, he's 35. He's old, In rugby league terms, he's old, but he still knows how to steer the ship. And partnered, like you said, with Ben Hunt as well. they know what they want to do and what they need to do as a spine that helps the Queensland side go forward as well. And I think that with the Queensland side and with the inclusion of Billy Slater since he's been the coach, their coaching staff is world class. They've got people who know how to who have won the series 8 times, and that were part of that 8 in a row years. They've got Jonathan Friston, who's on the sideline with them. Cameron Smith as well there, who helps out. Greg Inglis, one of the best outside backs. I saw Billy Slater when he went down to the field and when Hammer went to fullback and he sort of whispered something and talked to him to something. But just those small efforts. That's what really helps a team who knows their identity, who knows they want to be, who knows what results they want to have, in those big moments. And I thought that was really, really special. Yeah.
I think just going off of what Willie was saying, having halves stay in those positions for a while, with the likes of Thurston and Cronkite and Cherry Evans, and I feel like now, with Darren, he's still quite young, and then now Ezra Mam's slowly going to be injected, so that's like another 10 plus years of 2 guys. Mam, we know how electric he is in that grand final last year, scoring that hat-trick, and then paired with Darren, I think Queensland are just going to continue to dominate, if I'm being honest, especially at that half position. So.
Did you have a standout for Queensland?
DCE, he deserved man of the match. I thought, the Hammer, he's just so fast. But it's that speed where he doesn't look quick.
Yeah.
But then when you see him running next to other players, it's like, okay, 3 tries. I also thought Cotter, Lindsay Collins, all our forwards played well. Cobber did a really great job coming off. I also thought New South, some of their boys, but I also thought Zach Lomax had one hell of a debut game. Brian To'o, Stephen Crichton, we know what to expect from them. Stephen Crichton, defensively, probably the best centre
quality
defensively. He was just shutting down that side the whole time. And Lionel, and I thought Robson also did a pretty good job. So those are a few standouts for me.
Yeah, and probably Liam Martin was another one.
Man,
that shot
he got up and he's like, he's teeing it up.
I loved how Jeremiah Nanai, come on, I'll get another one.
Yeah, that and those moments are always special, just to get that intensity, get both sides pumping. I feel like Liam Martin was the one to put his hand up. You need someone to put your hand up if you're down or your team needs a moment to sort of hype them up, man. I remember when I used to play, when one of the boys did a big hit, it's like, let's get her, let's fire up, and who's next gonna run? And then you hopefully don't want to run and get hit yourself. So it's one of those ones it's quite special in those big moments. But for me, I think Hammer did a really great job just to fill in that fullback position. He's been having a tear, and we talked about this, Willie, on our show, that he's been having a great season throughout for the Dolphins, and I think that really showed in this big moment. He's still young too. They've got quite a young side, a mixture of old people and young people, and it's a great mixture that Queensland have. And I think that he was probably one of my. I'm surprised he didn't get man of the match, but DCE really put his hand up in that game.
How important is Melbourne now? Is that settled? Has Queensland won the series now? People were saying last night, especially before the game, New South Wales had to win. They had to win that game in Sydney. It's not impossible to say that they could go to Brisbane and beat them. It's happened before. But is the series in the bag?
Nah, you can never write off any team, especially when it comes to Origin. And that New South Wales team, they're still a quality side. I think, like we were saying, once Swali'i came off, a lot of the momentum just shifted. But coming into game 2, I still think New South can get a job done. But being a Queenslander, I didn't think it'll happen. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a clean sweep and for all 3 games. I think that right now, if they don't get that halves pairing right, if they don't get their spine right, if they don't bring Moses in, who we know can produce good performances in the Origin arena, then I think that Queensland will be just too strong and too quick, too powerful. Definitely not being biased in my journalistic review, but want to look at it as a realistic. Queensland have been doing great, but then again, State of Origin is one of those times where you can't put your finger on it until it's game night, and when you see things unfold in front of your eyes.
He said he doesn't want to do it, and he's open about that, and he's happy doing his TV stuff. But if you're a club, i.e. Parramatta, and you're looking for a coach Should you be chasing Billy Slater?
Oh.
Should you be trying to get someone like Billy Slater? Because he's really shown his worth as a coach and what he can do for a team. Is it worth trying to pursue and throw him a big deal to try and convince him and change his mind?
Yeah, I think eventually down the road he would probably want to sign with an NRL club. I know he's pretty comfortable with the way things are going at Queensland. I know probably them winning a lot has probably helped his case. But yeah, I think Parramatta or even I don't know who the Bunnies have signed.
1 minute.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think Billy could do a great job for anyone he goes to because he's just such a great mind. I think all that experience with the Melbourne Storm, with Queensland, he knows how to win. He knows what to do to win. So yeah, I think he'd be great for any NRL club.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if the Eels, what the Eels need right now is definitely some of that mastermind type of energy that Billy Slater definitely brings in his coaching roles. And I think he's quite, like you said, he's quite a meticulous. He's got a meticulous type of style in the way that he coaches. I mean, look at him. The players said last night that they prepared for every situation to happen, and that's what you want from a coach. That when you're faced with a team, say if he comes into an NRL squad, he's got a top 30 or top 40 players to pick from, and he's going to be able to know all the strengths and the weaknesses of all his players, just because I think that's the type of thinker that he is, and that'll really benefit so any team that they come up against or any team that he decides to field, they know their job, they know what to happen if any situation happens on the NRL pitch. I'm curious as to see because a series. An Origin series is only a 3-game time, and the NRL season is much longer, to see how consistent that type of coaching style can be.
Or maybe he takes over from Mel.
Oh,
and he takes the Aussie squad.
Man, that's
maybe
great.
That may be his progression as a coach. We'll move away now from State of Origin. We'll move to a topic that's hotly been discussed, and a big decision for new All Blacks coach Scott Robinson to make as we approached his first series against the Englishmen who are coming over in early July. He's got to pick himself a captain as well as picking his first squad. Sam Cane's finishing up at the end of the season. We'll have a new captain for the All Blacks. Common names that have been thrown around: Ardie Savea and Scott Barrett. Where do your thoughts lie as far as who should lead the team?
For me, it's quite easy. I think Ardie Savea's he's the best player in the world. He's the most influential. Not only is he a star on the rugby field, he's a star on social media. Everyone just loves what he does. In Japan, he was a superstar there. He's our best player. And if I was playing on the team, you would want to follow the best player, and I think that's him. What he represents, everything he does. In last year's World Cup, he was phenomenal. There were many times that I thought, he needs to be our captain. So I think with Sam Cane leaving, I think Ardie Savea just slots in easily. But with Razor being head coach,
Scott Barrett,
I think Scott Barrett could get it. Or even the likes of someone like Cody Taylor. I think he's had an amazing season with the Crusaders. Pretty unlucky for them to miss the playoffs, go to blue, so I didn't care too much. But I think Ardie Savea is the easy choice.
You fit in well on the show.
Yeah, we gas bag it and talk about the Crusaders every single week after they lose. But just kidding. Shout out to the Crusaders. Shout out to our Pacific boys involved in that team. For me, I think no brainer. Ardie Savea is the number one name to call up. Not only in my opinion, but most New Zealanders' opinion that Ardie Savea should get the nod. He is a leader on the field and off the field. What he represents as a player and as a person is something that embodies what the All Blacks are about. And he's definitely one of those players that the squad can look up to and look to in those big moments, in those big games, that they can be like, hey, that's our captain and we need to deliver for him. And that's what they've done in previous years when he's been the captain. I remember when he was captaining for South Africa in their 100th test match, test match between the both sides, and in that game alone he just showed that he is a captain caliber type player. Willie?
Yeah, it's such a big job, such an important job, especially here in New Zealand, to have the person who sits in that position have the mana that commands the respect from the players first and foremost, but also the country looks to and has trust in,
Yeah.
because that's where we sit the All Blacks in that esteem. They sit above everyone, and I think the All Black coach is the second toughest job in New Zealand outside the Prime Minister, and I think next is the captain. We've got to get the captain right, and I think Ardie ticks all those boxes. Nothing against Scott Barrett, but Ardie on the world stage has proved it year on year. Just his quality, his no nonsense, his willingness to put his body on the line time and time again and lead from the front. And I think he's a genuine born leader. My only other thing was, outside of Ardie, was, do they go with someone younger? Do they go with someone who's going to be the leader of the future? And maybe someone like Geordie Barrett or Rico Ioane. I think those two have established themselves as two automatic picks in the team over the last couple of years, and maybe it's time to give it to someone else to be the captain for a while. But I think, as I said, as the All Blacks is such a high profile, high expectating job, I think for mine it's Ardie. Ardie's the man. He's never ever let the team down. He's been called upon to lead a couple of times, and every time he has done, he's accomplished his job with quality and respect, and plays the game in the right way. And interesting how respectful and how much respect the opposition has from Saikalisi. Calls him a dear friend, and they consult each other. They're mortal enemies when they take the field, so that says a lot about both of them, but about Ardie. And, I think he is the right person to take our All Blacks reins and take it going forward. Andy Bolters, Super Rugby, coming up, quarterfinals, your pick. I know you're a Blues fan, but...
so I had the Blues going through, I had the Chiefs going through, and then I forgot who else was playing, but I had the Highlanders beating the Brumbies. I think because there has to be an upset.
Yeah,
true.
Because it's easy to just pick the favourites. But obviously the Brumbies are the favourites. They've been doing well this whole year. I think they finished third. But I think the Landers can get the upset, especially over their win. If they win over the Drua, 39-3, wasn't expecting that. Dominated that game, so I think they could get the upset. But I think it doesn't matter. Just Blues the whole way. That's how I see it.
Blues all the way. Man, I expect the Drua to pull something off. I think they'll come close. And I think if there was to be an upset in this round, I expect the Drua to make it. Unfortunately, I just wanna back our Pacific boys, back our Pacific players. But I think about it. I was making up scenarios throughout the week, just like, man, imagine how crazy it'll be for the Drua. Backs against the wall, everyone's doubting them, like a movie. Like a sports movie, and they come out and then they beat the Blues, who have been flying this year. But definitely, the Blues have a strong side, and I expect them, if they were to go out and win and beat the Drua, I think it'll either be a close game or a thrashing by the Blues. I think that's how it'll go. But I think the Drua definitely have to work on their discipline. Because some moments during the game last week, I could see Frank Lomani, got sent off for kicking, interfering in the play just close to the try line, penalty trials. Just small moments like that can't happen when you come up in these big games and playoff games, but also against a team like the Blues. So I'm expecting, I'm a bit of a. I hope that Moana was going to make it, but unfortunately they weren't. They didn't make it this time. So my second team, the Drua, okay.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm a little bit like you guys. I'd like to see an upset. I'd like to see someone throw a spanner in the works. But as we've said on the show, especially the last couple of weeks, Matty, I think the top four have set themselves apart from the rest. Brumbies have been by far the better Aussie team out of anyone all season. The Chiefs, I thought, could really be a threat, and I still do. I think they've got quality within their pack, especially with Jacobson, Stevenson, and D-Mac. I think the quality of the squads in the top four are just superior to the ones at the bottom. There's been, over the last couple of weeks, coaches have tinkered and made changes week on week. I think they find settled squads now. I think they go with their quality 15 or their quality 23. And I think the bigger teams will get the job done this week. And I would love the Drua to do well. I really would, but I think the Blues will have too much edge. They lost top spot to finish second.
Man,
but
unreal.
I think they've got enough about them as well. They've done too much this year. And I think Vern Cotter, I think he's a bit more an astute coach than what people are saying. I think he's done some really good things behind closed doors, going back to pre-season, because they seem a little bit more mentally tougher as a group this year. They've always had the quality, but if they can keep Rico on the field and keep their better players out there, then I think they can get it done, and hopefully, like yourself, go all the way through. That'll be the key. Well, that brings us to an end of our little vodcast here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Cedric, thank you for joining us and being with us this morning and giving us your insights. And we wish you all the best for your journey, documenting and your social media stuff and your journalistic studies. And I hope we go all the way. And we're always here to support you, and hopefully we can collaborate again. One day. It's been awesome having you here this morning on Overtime with Matty here on Pacific Grandstand on 531 PI.